Welcome everyone to the first edition of We Love / Hate Wrestling. And this is something that generally we are a gaming show, but we want to go ahead and dive into the aspects of wrestling, as me and Dimitri are maybe one of the only two of the group that actually love / hate wrestling.
Yeah,
so let's
exactly. In order to love wrestling, you have to hate it.
Yes, it's a give or take. It's a bad habit. It's a good habit. You just can't quit it. So let's go ahead and start it off with Night of Champions 2015, where we're going to kick it off with the pre-show match being Neville and the Lucha Dragons versus Stardust and the Ascension. Now, personally, I really enjoy the pairing of Ascension and Stardust.
The problem is I came in late into this match, being that it's the pre-show, so that's an indication right there that once I came into it, I was already kind of hoping it was going to be over. And I think they're called the Cosmic Wasteland, right?
Yes.
I think that team is like a Fandango short of being the Loser Wasteland, to be honest, because whoever you pair the Ascension with, it's just got that loser stank on them. So I kind of feel bad for Stardust, to be honest, and I hope this gimmick doesn't have legs.
It's got to have legs. I mean, you got to start somewhere. You got to build some sort of character, and I think Stardust will propel them to that level. It's not going to appear that way from the get-go, but you just got to give it a shot.
I doubt it.
Winner of the match, Stardust and the Ascension. But really, in Dimitri's case, who cares? Next up, we have Ryback versus Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental Championship match. Classic heel out of Kevin Owens. He targeting the weak area. What was it, the shoulder or the elbow? Which one was it? You were confusing me, Ryback.
It's hard to tell.
But Kevin Owens pulled it off with the classic eye rake, very heel move, and the roll-up, and got the pin.
I'm kind of glad that they took the IC belt off of him. Mm-hmm. Hopefully Owens can propel it into something like John Cena has with the US Championship. So I think the IC Championship is on the right guy now, but as a match overall, wasn't that big a fan of it. I'm not that big a fan of a Ryback match at any point.
Well, the thing is we got to keep an eye on Owens for the next week or two, as that IC title has a curse on it. So, but you're right, him wearing the belt does make it look a little bit better, so hopefully he can propel it to a better position. And the winner of the match, Kevin Owens. By the way, what's the deal with Lillian Garcia saying the way she announces his name? Kevin Owens!
I think Lillian has problems pronouncing a lot of things.
Next up, we have Dolph Ziggler versus Rusev.
The whole storyline with Lana and Summer Rae, hopefully that's put to rest too. This whole storyline's been a failure. They had such potential to do something with her, not to be a diva, but to be like a strong manager type figure, and she became Ziggler's bimbo girlfriend. So terrible, terrible, terrible.
It really is a shame, and it doesn't make it any better for Rusev in this match, as he got taken out by the shoe and the roll-up. Wait, are we seeing a trend here? A lot of roll-ups going on.
Oh no, yes. And like I said before, the match overall, we've seen this match before with Ziggler. It's time to switch it up.
Absolutely. And the winner of the match, Rusev. Next up, we have New Day versus the Dudley Boys. Now, man, New Day is really on fire, and they keep the trend going as they came in and pushed the petition of Save the Tables. Although, I thought that was very funny considering towards the end of the match, I mean, the match was going great, they pulled a classic hypocritical heel move in calling for the tables themselves. It was absurd. Like, I haven't seen that in such a long time that it was interesting to see them pull that off.
But then obviously it got reversed on them, and I'm optimistic about the New Day, but I'm saying be cautious with them because that gimmick can get a little bit old a little bit quickly, and as much as I love Xavier Woods in the trombone, I would say for him to put the brakes on it a little bit. So hopefully we don't see it again anytime soon.
But he really did shine that night. I mean, between the Final Fantasy Victory fanfare that he blasted out again, and the selling of the table when he got 3D'd through it, I mean, he was totally paying homage to Devon, I think, with the twitching of the execution. I thought that was really interesting.
That was like McMahon twitching from a Stone Cold Stunner.
Yes. And winners by DQ, the Dudley Brothers.
Boys.
I still have the TNA stuck in my head. Alright, next up we have Nikki Bella versus Charlotte for the WWE Divas title match. It had a very 80s style to it, like the match. It had the heel dominated most of the match. Babyface did a lot of selling, but didn't have anything to bring to the table. suddenly there was a comeback and a clean win. Can we say it's a Hogan match-esque? Like, I think that's safe to say, right?
Now without getting in trouble, you can.
Oh, well, I take that back then.
Regardless, you are wrong on this being a good match on a few levels because, number one, they were playing up the gimmick that Nikki is injuring or is further injuring the leg of Charlotte. So they're playing up that whole angle the whole match. This is supposed to be a Divas Revolution match. It's supposed to be a showcase match of the talent that the WWE and the women's division has. So instead of doing a match like Bayley and Sasha Banks, where they had just legitimate talent on display, no, they had a whole angle, I should say, of injuring her leg, and she's overpowering her. She's going to win however it takes by injuring the leg. And then what happens in the end? The angle doesn't come into play at all. She does a perfect figure 8, doesn't struggle to do it, none whatsoever, and then Nikki taps out.
Oh, well, there we go. Either way, I think it was an alright match. And the winner of the match, Charlotte. Next up we have Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and the mystery partner versus the Wyatt family. Now, we were guessing throughout the night who it could have been, but I jokingly said maybe Chris Jericho, for all I know. And why? Why was it Chris Jericho?
Well, you're such a Dan O'Brien fanboy that anything not Daniel Bryan usually gets to you, so I understand.
Alright. One of the positives I've taken away from this match is that Braun looked really impressive by having his first pay-per-view match win.
One major gripe about this is, do they not do the 3 count anymore to see if somebody's knocked out? Do they just not have time for it to lift the person's hand 3 times like the olden days to see if somebody's asleep from like a sleeper hold type thing, or do they only do that with a sleeper hold? Because this was a bear hug, so
I think it applies to all submissions, and for some reason, you know what, now that you mention it, it is a common trend that I just don't get right now.
That's fine. They want to go away with the old school ways. That's understandable. But yeah, Chris Jericho making the appearance. The more exposure that we've gotten of Chris Jericho lately, we've been the worse off for it via his podcast, because usually his opinions are kind of jackassy. So that's kind of bled over into the wrestling ring a little bit. So I just kind of get upset when I see him sometimes. And I feel like in the back of my head, I have like this theory that they had some awesome third person lined up to be the tag team partner, but they got injured or made like a racist rant online or something. And then they had to find somebody out of somewhere to shuffle them into the match. And usually that spot is reserved for either Mark Henry or Chris Jericho. So I guess they decided to go with Chris Jericho on this one. And I hope they incorporate it into a gimmick where in order to face the Wyatt family, they're just going to keep revolving a new member every time until they finally find somebody that's capable enough to beat them, aka a Daniel Bryan of the sorts. But overall, I wasn't too impressed.
That's understandable. Overall, they had a decent showing in the match itself, so Wyatt family goes over.
Braun looked okay.
Next up is Seth Rollins versus John Cena for the U.S. title match. Now, we can always expect a great match from those two. I think they did fine. A lot of great moves, a lot of great false finishes. The only thing is, kayfabe-wise, why would they have Seth Rollins do all these high-risk, high-energy moves if he's going to face Sting next? I mean, wouldn't you stick with more like ground-and-pound technical moves? Just to not tire yourself out.
Kayfabe-wise, why would you have the biggest heel in the company do all these babyface type things, like having 2 matches in one night, or having these high spots that would make him seem like a babyface? But I digress. My biggest issue with this match is one thing and one thing alone, to be honest. No springboard stunner.
If he can execute it properly, and to take it from as Stone Cold said, if he can hit it as a finisher and finish the match with it, I mean, I think that would be the best way to go about it. But
I just want to see Cena do it correctly once.
Yeah, what's the last time? Like WrestleMania, basically?
And even that was like, what did you just do? Huh?
Yeah. But does this mean the U.S. challenge is back?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm down for those open title challenges for sure.
But it also means another terrible John Cena shirt is back too.
Yeah. And the winner of the first of the 2 matches for Seth Rollins, John Cena. Alright, finally we have Seth Rollins versus Sting for the WWE World title match. Now, Sting gave it his all this match, and I totally appreciated it. But at 56 years old, multiple powerbomb to the turnbuckles, going through a Spanish announce table with monitors still on there, and a flying crossbody.
I was rooting for Sting.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, I was rooting for him to have a good match.
Yes.
the most ridiculous part about the whole thing was before the match started, you were making these ridiculous claims that he could still go.
And he could. There was just a lot of unfortunate events that went down in that particular match. You couldn't tell me that didn't happen. It wouldn't have played out the same way, in my opinion.
My giveaway that Sting was done and his last match should have been his first match at WrestleMania was that Scorpion Deathlock that he put on Triple H at WrestleMania, where he was employing the technique where it kind of looks like you have to take a shit in a public bathroom, but you don't want your butt cheeks to touch the toilet, so you're doing like the hover technique. Yeah, that was him, but in the Scorpion Deathlock. So it kind of looked like he can't really just bend down and get a good one in there. So I figured it was probably time to go, but we were wrong, and he came back at 56 years old, and we saw what happened. And it's unfortunate because if that didn't happen, it would have been a pretty solid match overall.
Agreed.
Not that it wasn't. Those maneuvers that he pulled off were impressive. I will tip my hat to that.
But it was hard for him to come away from it, and I just think we'll have to see what the future lies for Sting at this point going forward, because as of this recording, it's been confirmed that he was injured. So I'm not entirely sure what direction they're going to have him go in. Was it easy to say that we were going to have a WrestleMania match for him in his hometown of Dallas, Texas?
Whatever it takes. I just hope we don't have an Ultimate Warrior situation where he's on Raw and fine one day, and then the next day he tries to walk to his car in a parking lot, and we're having an in memoriam the next Raw.
My heart was in my throat when he went down at that point of the match, and you were like, "Oh no!" And the way you said that, it just had me shaking my head.
You could tell it wasn't a work when that Irish whip happened, and he basically just buckled to the floor.
Oh man! And the winner of the main event, Seth Rollins. But overall, I think it was a decent pay-per-view. I mean, it had its ups and downs, but I'm gonna go ahead and rate this 2.5 out of 5 championships. Dimitri, what would you give it?
1.
Ouch.
1 television championship.
On that note, folks, we are gonna go ahead and turn it in. Go ahead and check out the Turbo Ether on Twitter, Turbo Ether on the Facebook, and turboether.com to be redirected to our YouTube channel to check out any of our future recordings. And on that note, folks, I am Nick, and I love wrestling.
And I'm Dimitri, and I hate wrestling.
Take care, guys.